Here's our economic update for April 19th, 2026. Our jobs report came out on April 3rd. We had plus 178,000 jobs created in the United States for March. The ADP said we created 62,000 jobs. We had a revision down. We're now looking at a loss of 133,000 jobs in February through the BLS, and that was revised down by about 41,000 jobs. When we look at January, we were revised up by 34,000 jobs for a total of 160,000 jobs created in January. If we look at the unemployment rate, we are down last month to this month, now at 4.3%. But if you look over the last several months to years, we're steadily increasing. We're at 4.3%. There's 7.2 million people that are considered unemployed at the moment. We have an additional 4.5 million people that are working part-time instead of full-time due to economic reasons. And there's an additional 6 million people that are not counted. They don't have a job, they want a job, but they didn't look for a job in the last 4 months, so they're not considered unemployed. If we look at our labor force participation rate, this is a better measurement if you want to actually see how many people are working. We're at 61.9%, and this has been dropping over the last couple of years. So overall, it doesn't matter what you call employed or not employed, less people are working as a percentage of the population. When we look at our most recent JOLTS report that was on March 31st, there's 6.9 million jobs that are open. We're looking at the lowest hiring rates since April of 2020. There's currently more than one unemployed person per open job. So even if everybody had a job, there's not enough jobs for the people that want jobs. And again, you're not really counting this extra 10.5 million people that aren't able to find full-time employment. For our inflation report, we have our Producers Price Index, or PPI, came out on April 14th. This is significantly up at 4%. Our PPI core, which is just removing the costs from food and energy, which could be more volatile, still up 3.6%, and this is from our March data. Our CPI, or Consumer Price Index, for April 10th, coming from our March data, was up 3.3%, so this had a significant jump. And these two, if you include fuel costs, you're well aware that the conflict between the US, Israel, and Lebanon, and Iran, and the closing of straits and oil routes is having a major impact on inflation. And if you remove food and energy, our CPI core did go up to 2.6 as well. And then April 9th, we had our personal consumption expenditures, our PCE, was flat at 2.8%, and our PCE core minus food and energy, it was at 3.0%. This is slightly down, but do recall that this data is still coming from February, which was before the conflict started and oil prices shot up. The Fed does have a dual mandate. They want to see stable prices, maximum employment. They want to have a target of 2% inflation, and they mentioned that in their Fed meeting minutes as well, and maximum employment. So they don't want to see prices rise faster than 2%, and they don't want to see unemployment going up. So they have that target of 2%. However, we're significantly higher, no matter where you look, than the 2%. So that makes the Fed want to raise interest rates to slow the economy down. But if the Fed trying to fight inflation raises interest rates, then that basically leads to layoffs and people not spending as much money. So when you have unemployment that's ticking up, and you do have a labor force participation rate that's going down, and you're having some months where you're having, losses of 100,000 employees, they're going to be more reluctant to do that. So in those situations, they would prefer to drop interest rates. So they have two things that are fighting themselves right now. So at the last FOMC meeting, the Fed chose to hold at 3.5 to 3.75%. They noted that the economy was expanding. They were also noting that there's low job gains, and unemployment hasn't changed that significantly over a short period of time, but it's still going up. And they also noticed that inflation still remains elevated. So the low job gains and the inflation that's a bit elevated and stubborn, they're kind of pausing to see what happens next. And their next meeting where they get to decide what the interest rate is going forward is April 29th. Being that we still have a bit of uncertainty with everything going on in the Middle East, and jobs are being created but then also destroyed month to month, I think we're going to hold at 3.5 to 3.75%. And a very, very low probability that they'll change it. And if they do change it, it'll be 0.25% up or down. But I don't think they're going to do anything during this meeting. Looking at our GDP, or gross domestic product, first quarter 2025, we're down 0.5%. Second quarter, we rebounded plus 3.8%. Third quarter was very strong at 4.4%. That's the highest in 2 years. And fourth quarter was revised down to plus 0.5%. First quarter 2026, this has been revised down a little bit. It's at 1.3% right now. Basically, we had the Department of Homeland Security shut down and the conflict with Iran, and that's dragging a bit on our economy with higher gas prices and diesel and shipping and everything else like that. Do note that about 60 to 70% of our economy is consumer spending. If you see people starting to pull back from spending, basically that's when you run into trouble. Right now, the top 10% of earners are effectively spending about 50% of all money that's in the economy. So as long as they keep spending money, it's okay. But if you start to see cracks, which those people will tend to own more assets, if the stock market and assets start to go down, that's when they start to slow down spending. So let's talk about the consumer. On April 10th, there was the Michigan Survey of Consumers. The index of consumer sentiment month over month was down 10.7%. Year over year was down 8.8%. Current economic conditions down 10.2% month over month, down 16.2% year over year. And the index of consumer expectations were down 10.8% month over month and down 2.5% year over year. So if you think about this, we're comparing this back to April of 2025 when we had the tariffs that were being announced and Liberation Day. So we're actually feeling less confident today than we did a year ago. April 9th, disposable personal income was down $18.3 billion, and personal consumption expenditures were up $103.2 billion. And this was mostly in cars, parts, and healthcare. Our personal savings rate has dropped a little bit, and that's at 4%. Another area I would like to look at is we have some data from March 4th. You can look at 401k hardship withdrawals. These are basically people are losing their jobs and need to be able to pull money out of that account. These have been steadily gaining. It's now at 6%. It's getting relatively high. And if you look at the 90-plus day credit cards, school loans, car loans, those delinquency rates have been rising. They're as high as they were during basically the Great Recession. If we look at real estate on April 13th, there are 3.98 million existing homes that were sold. This is down 1% year over year. The current median price is $408,800 for a home in the US, and that's gone up by 1.4% year over year. The reason why I just put it sideways is effectively, if you look at inflation, if you look at any of these, they're much higher than that increase. So you're actually increasing slower than the rate of inflation at the moment, which I understand because home prices were growing much more rapidly over the last couple of years, and it's got to slow down so normal people can start buying homes again. Otherwise, who's going to buy them? And if we look at how many existing homes are for sale, this is growing. You would expect that as you're building up inventory. So we're at 1.36 million existing homes for sale. We're now at 2.3% gain year over year. And we've increased the month supply of homes by 0.3 months. So we're currently at 4.1 months supply. Do note that 6 months supply is considered a balanced market, so it's still a seller's market, not a buyer's market. Again, all real estate is very local, work with a licensed agent. Our manufacturing data came out on April 1st. The ISM manufacturing is growing for the third consecutive month and growing faster. The economy is growing faster for the 17th month, so that's good news. If we look at the business leaders survey that was conducted between April 2nd and April 9th, the service sector activity has declined. Headline activity rose, but it's still negative. If you look at the business climate, that's down to minus 49.3. Employment is slightly lower. Supply availability is significantly worse. Input prices accelerated sharply while selling prices increased modestly. Expect very little improvement over the next 6 months between these leaders. Just a word of caution. If you look at the 10 and the 2-year yields, they're above the 0.5% post an inversion. This is similar to what happened in 1991, 2001, 2008, 2020, and it's currently happening. I'm not saying that this is going to happen this month, this year. Just be aware of it. This has been drawn out much longer than it normally is, so who knows what's going to happen. But typically when there's an inversion and then you go above this 0.5% or so, you will generally see a recession during that period. But the U.S. economy seems to have been doing very well in terms of being robust, at least for the higher earners. It's a bit more of a struggle for most people, though. Then we also have basically PE ratios and things like that. You can look at CAPE. This is very high. Again, this is similar to what happened in 1929, 2000, 2022, and currently. So there's a couple of things that are, just being a little cautious. I might have some downside protection on stocks and things like that. So I own a couple of puts. So when stocks go down, I can actually make money on stocks dropping. And I use that more as an insurance, not that I'm speculating something bad will happen. I am, for the most of my investments, 99+% of all of my investments are long-term investments. So I'm not panicking. Listen to what I'm saying, but do realize that I'm staying invested. I am every month using dollar cost averaging, buying up stocks and bonds. So not panicked, just be aware of it. So what's going on in the world? Well, we've had a ceasefire between the United States and Iran for the last couple of days. It's approaching that 14 days that it's supposed to be ending. The talks have not really been that fruitful. The U.S. has met in Pakistan between Iran and the U.S., and after many hours of negotiating, basically the United States will not allow for Iran to enrich nuclear material or pursue a nuclear weapon. However, Iran is unwilling to relinquish that. So when you say, I want this, and you can't have that, and you can't find some place to agree on that, I don't think the ceasefire will end up in a peace agreement. I think it's just going to go back to live fire. Iran basically blocked the passage of most ships through the Strait of Hormuz. So this is about 20% of all the world's oil supply. So that's what drove up prices very rapidly on gas and diesel, jet fuel, that sort of thing. And then the United States recently then blockaded the blockade. So then even Iranian ships couldn't come out, but the U.S. would allow all other ships to come through. But then because Iran had a blockade, then those other ships couldn't come through. So effectively the double blockade blocked everybody from shipping anything through the Strait of Hormuz. This might get extended, of course, but I don't think we're going to have a peace agreement by that point in time. Now, if you think of gas, jet fuel, diesel, heavy oil for shipping, your diesel is usually used for like trucking or tractors on a farm, heavy equipment, that sort of thing. Jet fuel, well, that's going to be for your planes. Europe is looking at potentially having to ration jet fuel in the next month and a half if this doesn't clear up. The other thing to realize here is it's planting season in a lot of areas, especially the United States and Europe. We need fertilizer. We need diesel to run the tractors. If these prices are much higher, they're also going to lead to much higher prices in food costs. And if you don't have as much fertilizer, effectively you can't grow as many crops in a short period of time. There's other methods to increase productivity of a field. Fertilizer has enabled the high yields of a lot of crops within our lifetime. So without fertilizer, you're going to greatly reduce what you can produce, and then basically you have less supply of food, so then that drives price up. So expect higher food prices over the next year. Also realize that the oil refineries, as well as some of the oil fields, were attacked. These are going to probably take like 2 years to rebuild or sell. So even if everything stopped today, it doesn't mean gas prices go immediately back to where they were, because you have less supply of gas and diesel and other fuels. There's less oil fields, there's less refineries. You have to rebuild all of that equipment. Barrel of oil before all this started was like $55, $65 a barrel. At the peak, it hit over $110 a barrel. Right now, we're at about $84 a barrel. So we're not as bad as where we were, but we're still worse off than what we started at. Do realize that oil from the Middle East, if it came to the United States, which it does come into Louisiana, fuel that left at the beginning of the conflict, it could still take 40 days from the beginning to reach the United States, let's say, or 20-something days to reach, Asia or Europe. So Asia and Europe have felt the crunch a little bit quicker. The United States was still receiving shipments from the Middle East, up until mid-April. So the last of those ships have, I believe, arrived because they were only traveling at about 10 to 20 miles per hour. So do expect the next couple of months to see high inflation. So jumping, 1% in a month didn't really surprise me. At least we're significantly lower than where we were on oil. I was getting concerned if we were going to hit 120, 130 plus dollars per barrel of oil, it would have a much higher likelihood of recession. 38 countries did pull in and said that they were willing to release, and many countries started to release oil, basically from their strategic oil reserves. In the end, what needs to happen is you need to be able to access that 20% of the world's oil through the Strait of Hormuz, or you need to build pipelines very quick, but that's probably not going to happen. It would be good if there were peace between the United States, Israel, Iran, Lebanon, all these countries, so that the world wouldn't have as high of inflation. There have been reports where there are some internal conflicts within Iran itself, basically people going after some of the military or other leaders. So there could be some armed resistance within Iran itself. People get stuck in the middle, and war sucks. So what am I doing with all this information? Where am I positioning my money? Well, first and foremost, if you do lose your job, I'm seeing about 25% of those people that have been on unemployment have been there for more than 6 months. I want to make sure that I have a 6-month emergency fund, so if I did lose my job, that I would be good and have enough time to find something else. I want to put that into high yield savings or CD. That should be in something that's FDIC and it's very liquid or easy to access. Now, the next thing, any money I need in the next 5 years, say I'm buying a house, I'm getting married, I'm buying a car, I'm retiring next year, something like that. That money I want to have in something that's liquid, such as high yield savings or CDs, which are also FDIC. Any money I don't need in the next 5 years, that's where I'm currently just putting that dollar cost averaging into 70-80% of the S&P 500, about 10 to 20% total international fund, and about 0 to 10%, closer to 10% right now, into long-term bonds. And why bonds? If the Fed buys up treasury bonds, especially the long-term bonds, that would help to drive down the interest rate. When interest rates go down, bond values go up. So that's why I want to hold some bonds right now. So if interest rates go down because there's an economic issue, basically the bonds tend to, in that time, go up pretty rapidly. So if you look back to like 2020, I had a lot of bonds right before then. And then as soon as the interest rate dropped, I saw a 7% gain and sold off my bonds, bought up stock when they were low, and then allowed the stock to climb. So that's kind of what I do from time to time. I do not want to buy or hold bonds while interest rates are rising. Basically, you lose bond value in those situations. You could hold it to maturity. I hope you found this useful. If you enjoy topics such as how to make more money, how to save, how to invest, how to be an entrepreneur, this is a channel for you. Please subscribe. Have a great day.